What's up guys, so I've finally updated my tier list on Regen Gaming and this video is going to explain the top 2 champions in each role and also the format. Now if you're watching this on my channel then you can find the article link down below, and if you're watching this on Regen Gaming then make sure you pop over here and subscribe. So let's start off with the top champions, and first up we're going to have Jax. Now Jax has been banned for quite a while now, and even though he was nerfed this patch for solo queue, I still think he remains the best top laner. Now he really is a ticking time bomb. You can shut him down early, but at some point he's going to wreck you whether he has a real weapon or not. He excels at split pushing, that this is what he was made to do, but once he gets a few items he can also come into a team fight and still have a huge impact as well. Now there are 3 reasons why I think he's number 1. So this versatility of team fighting or split pushing I just mentioned, he snowballs harder than anyone else, and honestly just the ridiculous amount of damage that he can put out. So Irelia is much like Ziggs in that she's not pick or ban, but she's very close and is probably the most reliable top laner to carry solo queue with. She's rarely ever banned, she's always impactful, good in lane, great in mid and late game, and is one of the few champions who can efficiently adapt her build to counter what she is playing against. Now one of the reasons she is so good is because she can practically win any lane, it just depends on how good you are with her. Now Lucian, simply put, is just the best all-round jungler right now. He can gank, counter jungle, duel, engage, peel, tank, assassinate, and he can do all of these things to the same level as other junglers who can only do a few of them. He's probably the one jungler that requires you to be really good at him to be successful, but once you put the time into learning him, you can dominate a game by yourself. Now he has a ton of early pressure, which can easily snowball a game, but more importantly, he doesn't fall off as hard as other junglers. Sure, he may not one-shot the enemy carry anymore, but he's still going to have a huge impact, whether that is with damage or just with his utility. Now there isn't really too much to say about Eve. She has a ton of damage, she can build efficiently to match the state of the game, and she's extremely strong early, and that's not even counting her stealth. One thing that people don't really think about is that even if she doesn't gank, she is still having a big impact on the game. She naturally makes teams play more passive, especially early, and regardless of if she actually ganks or not, she's still exerting a ton of pressure. Now Kassadin did get changed a little while ago, and the main difference now is you can actually shut this guy down in lane, and he needs more items to dominate the game than he needed before. Now Cass is probably better against mages than he was before, but he is way worse against AD lanes like Yasuo or Zed. He still brings a ton of mobility, a lot of roam potential, a really strong late game carry, and he can build differently depending on what he's against, which is a good tool to have. Now Yasuo is quite hard to play and to master, but once you do, you will definitely benefit from it. He scales really hard with only a few items, so even if you get camped, even if it's so hard that the enemy jungler basically sets up a tent in your lane, you'll still be strong once you get those items. Now when you have a champion that is even strong when he's behind, it proves deadly when he actually wins his lane, which this guy is definitely capable of doing. The reason he is a pick or ban champion for me is because if he does get ahead, he'll probably 1v2 or 1v3, and it's so hard to stop him snowballing. So moving on to the ADs then, Lucian may come off this tier list after the next patch, but he does deserve to be here right now, and honestly he could still be here after the changes. Now right now he benefits a lot from the Blade of the Ruined King and Ghostblade build that is really popular, and while his abilities don't do as much damage, his passive hits even harder. So he's very difficult to beat in lane, he snowballs very hard, he's great at one-on-one fights, and his mid to late game damage is really high. So he's definitely still going to be the best all-round AD because he excels in so many different areas, so you can never really go wrong with picking Lucian. Now if there is one champion who benefit the most from now being able to rush an Infinity Edge, I'd say it's Caitlyn. Now Caitlyn is picked for her lane control, but she's great late game, great at kiting people, and she's also very hard to catch in a team fight. You combine this with her high range and it makes for a great early and late game AD, the only downside really being that she does struggle mid game. Now arguably you have to win your lane on Caitlyn, otherwise it's going to be a very tough game, but thankfully that isn't actually that hard to do. So finally, let's have a look at the supports, and obviously the number one is going to be Braum. Now Braum is in a very similar boat as Thresh is. No matter how much you hit the numbers on his abilities, his kit is the reason he will be always picked. Now he can block abilities, and sometimes those are huge abilities too, like ultimates. He can peel, he can dive, he can stun, he can knock people up, he can slow. Like, what more do you want from a support champion? He actually snowballs quite hard too. Now this isn't something you'd normally hear, and obviously it's slightly different than killing everyone, but once he gets a few items, he's almost impossible to kill. Now Morgana has been a great champion for a while, and she has a very high win rate now as well. She has a very long snare duration that happens to have a slightly larger hitbox, it seems, than other abilities. Her ultimate is great at diving and peeling, and obviously she has her black shield. Now one of the reasons she is so good is because the most popular supports right now are all beaten by her. Morgana can stop Thresh, Braum and even Leona from doing anything in the lane or even in teamfights as well to some extent, and when you combine that with the damage she brings herself, it's very easy to win your lane. So that wraps up my roundup of the tier list, and please make sure you check out the article in the description below and leave any comments you have for me. I'll hang around and answer questions you have about specific champions in the comments too, but please subscribe, like and share if you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you next time.